Hi again, everybody. It's Natalie Gray here, Head of Partnerships at Codurance, and I'm here chatting with my colleague Rob Gray, our Head of Sales. Hey, Rob.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about something really, really important, which in fact, I think is probably often the make or break between success and failure when it comes to these kinds of projects, which is really around people, skills, culture, process, and having the right team there to help you drive success in the cloud. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see your thoughts on this, Rob. I know every day you're talking to lots of different customers, from sort of fast growing scale ups all the way to large kind of global enterprises. And it feels like the people question is one that comes up time and time again, and probably the biggest challenge for lots of companies to solve. Just be really good to hear your thoughts about this.
I think it really depends as well, the size of organization that you speak to or that you're in. Really depends on how the culture is going to be shaped, formed, or changed, let's say, or adopts towards when you move to the cloud. Because I think, especially in one of the earlier episodes that we spoke about, when you're looking to create that business case of moving to the cloud and you start to really understand what changes need to happen within an organization. So I think from a cultural perspective, it's being very aware that a lot of processes and a lot of ways of working are going to change for the team. And I think very early on, when you're in that process of looking at moving into the cloud, it's bringing them on that journey so they're very much bought in from the beginning. And you're also trying to understand from that team, what are the constraints that they feel right now, and moving into the cloud, what are some of the things that they would like to see in terms of new processes, new ways of working, and kind of less dependencies between different systems as well. So not only are you, from a business perspective, you're looking at things like that cost optimization, the agility and scalability of being in the cloud from that business case, but you're also then taking it that level down to say the individuals in the organization, how are they on a day-by-day basis going to benefit from being in the cloud? If you're kind of speaking to the developers, there's a big difference that you see in developers that are working in a cloud environment or working on an on-premise environment, because the restrictions are so far apart from each other. The restrictions that a developer or development team will have from being on-premise might be things like the cloud compute that they have. Obviously, there's a natural max if you're working with on-premise servers, and you don't have the available cost to go out and buy more servers or spin up virtual machines within that on-premise server. Whereas that's not necessarily a constraint whether you're working within the cloud, and you're able to use some of the digital native services a lot easier, or adopt digital native services a lot easier. And that does a number of things as well. If you look at attrition for an organization, or retention of those staff as well, most people want to work with modern technologies. They want to work in modern environments. They like working on greenfield projects, whether that's building something new through that kind of product development area, or whether it's taking something that is very old, moving it into the cloud, and really seeing how they can reshape, rebuild, or reimagine this service or platform in a completely new environment. And even, again, just from a recruitment perspective, being able to show individuals that when you're recruiting, that you work in cloud environments, that you have the open availability to these digital native services that they're able to work with, and the new technologies that become available because of that. It really, we've seen it a lot of times working with different organizations, that it does open the door to a wider bandwidth of candidates that aren't necessarily looking or have worked with kind of older legacy systems on-premise services. I think if you're looking at a lot of the individuals that are still day-by-day developers that are from an era of doing that, a lot of them have moved up to that kind of engineering manager, CTO role, and they're not as hands-on doing that anymore. But I can imagine a lot of them are teaching people how to code and how to develop in cloud environments, as opposed to legacy.
Yeah, definitely. The other kind of concern that we hear from customers is, they know they want to do some kind of migration and or modernization, but one, they don't have the skills, or if they were to do this, it's going to kind of completely stop development, and that could potentially have an impact on, business as usual. And, how do you kind of modernize and migrate all your kind of key applications when you still got to keep the lights on. Often these applications are the most kind of critical for that business, the thing that's kind of keeping that business ahead of its competition. So how do businesses go about that, and what are some of the things you think that Codurance is seeing in that issue?
I think when we speak with a lot of organizations, and we do speak with organizations that have the same approach to it as us, and it's that incremental approach. It's not the big bang lift and shift, let's get you in the cloud and you've done it, you're there. Can you see the light at the end of the tunnel and all these services that are available to you? It's more about understanding the journey that you're going to be going on from a business perspective, because like you said, there will naturally be friction. And I think it's the same with a lot of different things. If you want to go, if you want to educate your people and take them out of their day-to-day delivery to upskill them and to get that kind of individual knowledge on services or applications or new ways of working, ultimately, once they're doing that, they're going to slow down delivery. So that kind of rate of delivery is slowed down. But from a business perspective, you're not necessarily going to want to do that, because you want to keep, BAU, you want to keep moving forwards, you want to have different innovations. So there's a friction constantly happening between educating your individuals and constantly delivering value. So you have to try and find that middle ground of how can I ensure that people are upskilling and educating themselves and professionally and personally developing, while still adding value to the systems or the applications day by day, sprint by sprint. We had a conversation last week with an organization that has a very monolithic application. And although they're in the cloud, it's the same approach. They have an understanding of what they want to do, but they just don't know where to start. It's that, it's the two, the two things which are creating friction against each other. It's that big bang, and it's also that, do we have the people to actually do this from an education perspective? We tend to find there's two things, and I think we spoke about this previously, is we either have the people that know what to do, they just can't identify, there's two things, they can't identify what part of the application needs to go first, or they don't have the time, they're not able to kind of withdraw from that day by day BAU stuff to focus on this new project, which is the migration. Or again, you've got enough people, you've got a whole team of people, but they've never either done a migration before, they've never worked in cloud environments before. So it's that knowledge gap then of actually being able to physically do it. When you do a migration, you naturally have that spike of cost that's going up because you're sat in two environments and you're kind of straddling across the two. But once you then start modernizing applications and you see yourselves in the cloud, you then start to see your operating costs starting to reduce. So you have to kind of accept that it will go up for that long-term or near-term, long-term of it being reduced.
I guess that's where partners like Codurance can really support that journey, right? Because I guess there's a massive kind of talent shortage still in the UK. So being able to retain your existing talent and reskill them in the cloud is going to really help them have that sustainable capability as they go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's even having an organization that's done that journey or done that type of work a number of times is really beneficial to a lot of organizations, looking at the environment as a whole, the dependencies and the value of moving into the cloud, etc. But then taking that really small piece, taking one single workload that when you move it into the cloud, you will see benefit and there will be value to it, but it's not obviously the core part of your business, because that's really risky as well. And we're still kind of in that experimenting phase of, let's just move this one little piece away from where it currently is and move it into the cloud. And we'll start very small, when we talk about incremental delivery, moving things across in that way.
Definitely. Well, I think we've run out of time yet again. If you want to join the conversation, then just tell us what kind of other topics you think we should be discussing on Beyond the Cloud. I think next time we're going to be talking about a bit of a recap on some of the benefits of cloud migration and modernisation. So thinking about things like data, sustainability, cost optimization, the value of serverless, like how do you go serverless is another kind of key topic. So we'll look at digging into some of those topics next time. But thanks so much again, Rob. And see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.